Chapter 47 The Vietnam War Cold War Crisis. Like Eisenhower, Kennedy invested money to help fight communism abroad. This caused cold conflict, threat, and competition, not all-out war. Pitched war, full-scale war, total war, not all-out war. The Bay of Pigs invasion. In 1959, after communist dictator Fidel Castro's rise to power, Eisenhower developed a plan to train Cuba dissident establishment rebel to overthrow him. Kennedy launched the invasion on April 1961. April 17th, 1961, but it failed. Dissident, a person who disagrees with or dissent from the belief in question. Strong disagreement. Cuba, Bay of Pigs, Havana, Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean Sea, Bay of Pigs. The Berlin Wall. In August of 1961, East Germany built a wall across the center of Berlin to close the border. The Berlin Wall symbolized the Iron Curtain between Western Europe and Communist Europe. The Cuban Missile Crisis. In October of 1962, an American U-2 spy plane saw potential Soviet nuclear missile site in Cuba. JFK ordered a naval blockade to prevent Soviet ships from reaching the island. Nuclear war was avoided when the USSR agreed to remove the missile and the US agreed not to invade Cuba. The space race. Yuri Gagarin of the USSR became the first person to orbit the Earth. In April of 1961, JFK set a goal of placing a man on the moon by the end of the decade. It took 3 sets of missions: Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo, but on July 20, 1969, the US, Neil Armstrong, and Edwin Buzz Aldrin were the first people to work on the moon. The Apollo project. On the other hand, to try to promote world peace, in 1961, Kennedy created the Peace Corps, which sent volunteers to developing countries around the world. In 1963, he helped set up a direct hotline between DC and Moscow, so leaders could communicate quickly in a crisis. Also in 1963, the US, the USSR, and the UK signed a limited nuclear test ban treaty, which banned nuclear tests except on the ground. Conflict in Vietnam, Cold War crisis. Vietnam was part of French Indochina, the present-day nations of Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Leader Ho Chi Minh and his Indo-Chinese Communist Party (ICF) joined other nationalists to create Vietnamese coalition alliance union to take military action for independence. Geneva Accord, treaty, contract. In May 1954, the French suffered a major defeat at the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. Afterwards, the French and Vietnamese met in Geneva, where it was decided that Vietnam would temporarily be divided along the 70th parallel, a similar tactic to what had been tried in Korea. In 1956, election would decide who would run the country. In the meanwhile, Ho Chi Minh would control the Burmese north, and Neo Ninh Dinh would control the anti-communist south. 17th Federal, Mekong River, North Vietnam, South Vietnam. Vietnam divided. Eisenhower sent a ton of money and weapons to support Diem's army. Diem saw he'd lose the national election, so he refused to participate. Communists in the South formed the National Liberation Front, a group also known as the Viet Cong. The Viet Cong waged guerrilla war in South Vietnam and got assistance from northern communists through a secret network of paths and tunnels called the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Kennedy sent soldiers from the special force known as Green Beret to help the South. In November of 1963, Diem army staged the coup and killed him. South Vietnam was losing control. 70th Federal, North Vietnam, Hanoi, Laos, Gulf of Tonkin, Mekong River, Thailand, Cambodia, Ho Chi Minh's Trail, South Vietnam, Saigon, Mekong Delta, South China Sea. Eisenhower and U.S. government believed in the domino theory about the spread of communism. If one country fell, then its neighbors would fall too. The Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. When Lyndon Johnson became president, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara told him that he needed to either send more troops to Vietnam and give up the war. In 1964, North Vietnamese patrol boat attacked two U.S. destroyers in international water. This led Congress to issue the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, giving the president the power to take military action without declaring war. In March 1965, the U.S. committed combat forces to South Vietnam. U.S. offensive operation in Vietnam escalated, grew extended, lead to the ground on the spot by William Westmoreland. The USSR was involved in the Vietnam War, but indirectly. The Soviet fought a proxy war. They contributed to supplies and usual proxy was stand-in to do the fighting. The proxies were North Vietnamese communists. Direct conflict between the US and the USSR would have been too dangerous. Escalation. The US used search and destroy mission to find Viet Cong's bases. There was a high rate of civilian casualty because soldiers took refuge, hide in villages. The US launched a bombing campaign called Operation Rolling Thunder, which lasted 3 years and involved dropping hundreds of thousands of bombs. The fast-burning chemical napalm was used to wipe out forests and villages that lined the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The herbicide agent Orange was used to kill the jungle